Hi, my name is Kat Bayouth, and this is my information speech. These are the people viewing us today, my family. So human beings have a tendency to fear what they don't understand. It's been the case across all cultures, especially in ancient times. Diseases used to be blamed for by gods or evil spirits or curses. But now in the modern day, we have kind of gotten past the blaming of supernatural origins for bodily diseases. So we no longer blame the supernatural, but we still highly and dramatically stigmatize illnesses that we don't understand. This used to be the case for cancer and HIV and AIDS, still to some extent this day. But one of the most highly stigmatized diseases in our society today is schizophrenia. So, to go on further, I have to actually somewhat define what schizophrenia is. The problem with mental illnesses is they're very varied from each person, but in general, schizophrenia is classified as a psychotic disorder. Psychotic is a scary sounding word, but essentially what that means is a detachment from reality. So people with schizophrenia can experience delusions, hallucinations. Sometimes they can have disorganized speech or behavior. But schizophrenia, at the end of the day, is an illness. It's caused by an imbalance of chemicals in somebody's brain. So now that we have that underway, we also have to define what a stigma is. So as I decided to just look it up in the dictionary, because I'm not good at coming up with definitions for my own, a stigma is a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. So the stigma, there's a lot of ways that it is perpetrated. And I think anybody knows this about mental illness. When you compare a mental illness to a physical illness, you get completely different reactions. I had somebody call schizophrenia the other day the casserole-free disease. When somebody in the neighborhood gets cancer, everybody pitches in to help. But someone's diagnosed with schizophrenia, and that becomes public, they become a target for isolation and discrimination, etc., etc. So, one of the most common disbeliefs about schizophrenics is that people diagnosed with this illness are violent or harmful to others. The unfortunate fact is, well, they're very rarely harmful to others unless under the influence of different drugs, but they are often incredibly harmful to themselves. Within the first 10 years of somebody being diagnosed or having schizophrenia, 10% of them die, mostly by suicide, which is a pretty big percentage. Now, going off of that, looking at how the stigmatization of schizophrenia affects people who are diagnosed with this illness. One of the biggest parts that's actually an issue for all mental illnesses across the board is a lot of them don't seek treatment. Up to around 50% of people who have this illness don't actually actively seek out treatment. And when I was looking up the reasons for this, I found out that 60%, those top two, are because people want to either, or they think that they can solve the problem on their own, and they want to solve the problem, or they're on their own. And the other 30% think the problem would get better by itself. There is a complete lack of information on this disease that causes the fear that perpetrates the stigma, but also makes people woefully uneducated and don't know how to deal with it on their own. So now that I have laid all of that out, I suppose I want to try to give a little more of a problem solution. At the end of the day, it is like any other thing, an illness. And it is really hard to see it as that, just the way that we've come to believe mental illness is. But I was looking at more statistics because I actually did research for this one for once, and found out the percentage of people who, well, what people, the majority of people believe happens to people with schizophrenia, where they are, is a completely different number. So people often believe that there's a bunch of people who have some sort of schizophrenia or psychotic disorder that end up in prison, which is actually, among the people in prison, that's approximately 6%. And if you look at the percentage of African Americans that are institutionalized, it's a huge difference. Or just regular people, 6% out of the population, that's pretty minor. And the things that people who end up going, people who end up going to jail with schizophrenia, almost all of their charges are minor offenses. So the thing is, I give that statistic, but when I say, well, psychotic or hallucinations, delusions, people immediately think dangerous. And that is just not at all true. So this does, as I've said, negatively impact people who have this disease, and it's incredibly detrimental to them getting help, to their own. So to conclude my speech, I simply want to end this statement. Though there are a lot of things we don't understand, we need to try to put them, well, try to view them logically instead of turning them into some big, scary monster to be defeated, like a demon or an angry god. So we should really, at least in little ways, try to break out of that mindset. We think of those big superstitions as ridiculous now in the modern day world, but we need to remember that in some cases we do something very similar. So when thinking about things such as schizophrenia or handling the topic itself, try to view it from a standpoint that does not make assumptions or put on unnecessary labels, because they're simply harmful. There we go.